Hi friend, I got a little object lesson here in my hand for you. Imagine the sun rays beating down on the ocean surface. This causes the evaporation of water above the surface of the ocean, and this causes the air above the surface to become full of moisture. Now, water has a molar mass of about 18 grams per mole, and nitrogen, 28, and oxygen, 32 grams per mole. It becomes apparent that moist air is less dense than dry air, and thus, due to buoyancy, it rises up. As this air rises up to a loftier elevation, pressure decreases. A cloud forms. A cloud is really a colloidal dispersion, small droplets of water suspended in the gases of the atmosphere. Here we see the Tyndall effect, light being scattered from hitting small particles. Now on a cool, foggy morning when the sun comes up, heats up the air, that causes pressure to increase, and it burns off the clouds. I am reminded back in my younger days after my sophomore year in college, when my dad and I went back east for higher wages than what we could get in Colorado. I was earning about $6 an hour in construction, framing houses. So once we were in Massachusetts, it took about a week for me to find a construction job. And I got paid $12.50 an hour. I was able to earn $4,500 in 3 months. And this allowed me to put $4,000 down on my college tuition. We hadn't been out there for too long when one day after work, we're walking on the street and we met some random people that invited us to a Bible study. Now these people were really nice and they seemed totally legit. So to the Bible study, we went. And that first night at the Bible study, we read from the book of James. I was very struck by a particular verse that night. That verse is James 4:14. And that verse says, "For what is your life? Your life is like a wisp of fog that appears for a little time and then later vanishes away." I've heard many people say, "You only live once, Eric. You only have one life to live." What are these people getting at when they make these statements? What do they mean? Get the most stuff? Have the most fun? There was a time in my life where I thought I really knew how to live that one life I had to live. You know, back then there was this song, "Ooh, that smell." Little comedy. I think that I was trying to emulate that song. At one point, the lyrics state, "You say you'll be right come tomorrow, but tomorrow might not be here for you." Possibly we can all agree that we should make the most of our lives here on this earth. However, there may be many opinions on what that looks like. About 8 months earlier, before my dad and I set off for Massachusetts, way back when, I was fortunate because I recovered from being a backslidden individual. Raised in a Bible-believing home, I had access to biblical truth. However, like a stereotypical backslider, I took my eyes off Jesus and I put my eyes on the world and I took in worldly entertainment, tried to live that life. Before too long, I started to listen to Satan's lies. Of course, I didn't think that I was listening to Satan. I thought it was just my own thoughts. Yes, I became beguiled by my own thinking. I was thinking that, God's not exactly fair. I didn't ask to be born into this world that God is using as an exhibition for the universe to see what Satan's government yields. I didn't ask Jesus to die on the cross for me. I didn't think that I owed anything to anybody. In hindsight, man, I was a total fool. However, one day I was at the right place at the right time. You see, I met a small group of people that by all right should have totally hated each other. But they had unconditional love for each other. And this love they had for each other was healing them. You know, these people don't rank too high by the world's standards. In fact, the only use others find for these people is prison fodder. And at that moment, Jesus' words to the religious leaders of his day popped into my head when Jesus said, "Verily I say unto you that the publicans and the harlots go into the kingdom of God before you." You know, publicans were Jewish tax collectors that worked for the Romans, and they were despised and hated because they were corrupt. We all know what harlots are. And I was just thunderstruck. In my astonishment, I had to ask myself, what am I doing judging God by his professed followers and all the shortcomings of organized religion? Suddenly, I had mental clarity to see what an utter fool I had been. And from that day forward, I started to seek to know God for real. Today, I live my life for God, and every day is a struggle. Every day is a battle to die to self and to let God use me for his will. Ironically, though, now I am living a life totally worth living. And dying is of no consequence, for I plan on living 2 lives. Not just 1, 2. The life I live here and now in this fallen world, and the life I have to live after the controversy between Christ and Satan is over. I believe in the gospel of Jesus Christ. That is why I started this channel, to share my hope with anyone who will listen. And that means you, friend.